Dan, say hi to the Sales Influence Tribe, man.
Your Sales Influence Tribe is the best tribe out there. I tell you what, I'm pumped up just watching your intro.
All right. As you can tell, Dan is a salesman. He's already sucking up to my team, but that's all right, man. I accept that. Dan, how you doing today? Everything good?
You know, it's just a good day to be alive. I tell you, I say that every day. It's a part of my morning routine. The first thing I do is, if you could just get into the habit of just saying thank you. I mean, you don't have to do a prayer or anything. Just say thank you first thing in the morning instead of, I'm cold. Your day goes better. Today's one of those days.
Yeah. Zig Ziglar, attitude of gratitude, brother. Attitude of gratitude, man. Hey, let these folks know how we first met.
How we first met. Well, aside from the stalking.
Besides the stalking. That's weird.
Okay. Aside from the stalking, we have a mutual friend in Hal Coleman. And Hal's a good guy. He's a pest control marketing guy, and he's a great consultant and all that. And he was putting on a little event here in Atlanta, and asked me to help him out with a couple of things. And then he said, and Victor Antonio is going to be coming too. And I'm like, my man, because I've been promoting your sales velocity even before I knew you. I thought it was so great. And then so I went there and, I did my little spiel. And of course I stayed around for yours, and I realized how good I could become one day.
Oh, that's cool, man. It was a great day, man. Hal Coleman, big shout out to Hal Coleman. When it comes to pest control marketing, Hal Coleman and Mike Stewart, geniuses, what they do. And they help small businesses. So, by the way, I did that for free for Hal Coleman. So,
did you?
I think he bought me a cup of coffee, maybe.
Yeah.
But it was a great event, man. But anyway, he's a good dude, man, and I'm glad I met you, man. Since that time, now Dan Jordan, aka the Sales Energizer, that's his yes. nickname. That's his handle. And so, where did that come from? Where did this whole Sales Energizer thing come from?
Oh, gosh, when someone's up and coming in sales, and we can go into it, but I kind of always wanted to get into sales, but I realized early on in school, I wasn't quite good looking enough, to get all the girls. I wasn't quite athletic enough. I mean, I'm athletic, but I wasn't, the great, football player that you would say. And you start reevaluating yourself and see, what do you got that attracts people to you? And I have an unusual amount of energy. And I just use that energy just for positive stuff. When people, I used to play this game in New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey, and people are just mean in New Jersey.
Whoa! Hey, I got New Jersey listening again. Don't insult my.
Well, they don't mean to be mean, but up yours is a greeting. So
they're a little terse. Let's just call them that. They're a little terse.
But I would play this game early on where I would just, I'd be walking down the hall or see somebody and I'd smile at them and they'd smile back, and then I won, then I got my first point, boom. That was the first thing to do. I kind of forced them to do that. And I realized when I spoke with people, what they were getting from me is, they liked seeing me because I would give off that energy. And so it just stuck.
Now, from that? I mean, how old were you, man, when you started realizing you had this, Energizer bunny running inside of you, man? Because you're probably like a lot of salespeople, man. If I think a lot of salespeople, tell me if you agree, have ADHD or something, man. I mean, I would have been given Ritalin every day.
I know. Well, they wanted to. I didn't. I ran away. It was one. I'm not taking that stuff. And my dad didn't like any of that stuff. It was same with my kids. He goes, this was his question with any medication that we would do anything. He would say, "Will it change his brain? Mm-hmm. Will it change his brain?" And I said, "Man, I like my brain." And really, that's why I never did drugs, or I never did anything, because I was just afraid. First of all, I'm compulsive. I'd love it. I mean, I'd be like the biggest drug addict out there if I tried. But I figured it's going to change my brain. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
But how old was I? It was early on. That was 6th, 7th grade.
I was afraid of my mother, man. I got stories. Man. With the sandal spanking me. So I was like, ugh. So as you go through elementary school, what was your first sales gig? I love asking this question. What was your first, hey, I got to go sell something?
I'm from like this little town in New Jersey called Fairlawn, and on my block, particular block, there was I'm Jewish. There was a bunch of Jewish people, and back then, hell, there were no Jews in middle management. I mean, like you were going to reach. Nobody's goal was to get into the corporate life. It just didn't it just didn't happen. So everybody kind of owned their own business, and I tell you, so I remember my neighbor across the street, the Zismans, and they had a construction company. And when I was there playing with their son, Gary, and we were just hanging out, and he went to the bathroom or something. So the dad came over to me and he said, so Danny, what are you going to do with your life? How are you going to support a family?
By the way, the Jewish accent almost came out. So Danny, he almost said it.
I know. Go ahead. So he goes, how are you going to support a family? And I looked at him. I said, Mr. Zisman, I'm 11. What do you want from me? But this is what this is what the neighborhood was. And so it was constantly, everybody was starting businesses. So what was the first thing? The first thing was, selling stuff in school. There was this closeout, this store that went out of business, and they had all these sneakers, and we somehow bought up all these sneakers, and I was selling these sneakers in school. They were all the same size.
What did you sell them for at that time? I mean, what was the price of a sneaker at that time? I thought it'd be interesting.
50 cents. Yeah. I mean, you're a kid. What do you care? I mean, you got them for free. They were throwing them out. So.
I remember that happened.
Just all exciting.
By the
way, what did you do?
Similar story. We had the gym shoe story. We had, for some reason, this company threw out these gym shoes like into this large bin, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're like dumpster diving, like no joke. It was a big dumpster. And we're grabbing all these gym shoes, and we're like, well, I was stupid. I gave them away. I didn't sell them. I should have done that. I wasn't as enterprising as you. But man, that's funny that you have that story. Similar story here. Man.
Yeah. Well, the big money maker for all the kids was shoveling snow. Like that was a big deal. Like anytime it snowed, we were all excited because A, no school, but B, everybody just grabbed their shovel, and it was like the weirdest thing how it happens real quickly where people start like picking their areas. And that was the time when I learned wake up early.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, when you wake up early, you get to pick the houses that you want to go to.
Yeah.
Instead of getting the leftovers of everybody else. And the trick is you want to get the houses that when the sun rises, it melts the snow on the driveway, because otherwise you do it and it looks like garbage. And people, why can't you make it look like that? So.
Now, see, there's a lot of sales lessons embedded in this simple story, right? 1, get up early. 2, territory management. 3, ideal client profile, right? So
that's right.
This is all sales in the back of your head going, hey, this is how you do it, man.
You make it better. Yeah. Everybody wanted the Samuels house.
That's right.
Samuels had a good house. They had a big house, and it had a walkway, but a very short sidewalk area.
So it was
sidewalk
easy.
Always,
big accounts. Those are called the key accounts. You love key accounts. So
that's right.
How did you transition from, selling gym shoes and cleaning sidewalks to what was your transition into the world of selling, man?
Oh, well, it wasn't sales at the beginning. It was business ownership. And I think that's where we are right now. There's different times in history and different kind of revolutions, the industrial revolution and the computer revolution. But right now we're in kind of this real gig economy. Everybody's self-employed. Even if you're a salesperson, if you consider yourself self-employed, you have a much better chance. And so my goal was always to own my own business. And so my first business was I took my college money, and before my parents knew what hit them, and I bought a butcher shop like in the next town over in Elmwood Park. Yeah, and turned it into a deli, DJ's Country Deli, and that was my first business. And it was college money, so people say, "Oh, there's a big risk." Man, you have nothing if you got this thing, and so. If I lost it, big deal. You can't lose something that you don't have. And so, but I worked my brains out. My first year, I worked 365 days in a row because that's how many days there were that year. And the next year, I worked 363 days because Christmas and New Year's was on a Sunday that year. So I said, I'll take a day off. And so we did that. But I learned very quickly in that deli that you could wait for people to come in, and you could sell them your buttered rolls and coffee, or you could sell this thing called catering, and then the sky's the limit. And so my first entrance into outside sales was selling catering for that deli, and very quickly I realized that's where the money, it's outside. You just got to ask for it.
Yeah.
Because anybody will try you once.
How long did you own the business? How long did you own that business?
I owned that business for 7 years. I sold it when I was 25. Good story. You want to hear a good story?
That's why we're here, man.
It's a good story. So
you sound like a salesman. Want to hear a good story? No, just tell me the good story. Don't tell me if I want to hear the good story. If it's a good story, just tell me the good story. Go ahead.
So my dad, an immigrant from France, lost his dad in the Holocaust. A really good perspective on life. Loved America, but only had a 6th grade education, and so he would give me advice now and again, and all that stuff. And so I'd share with you a little while, but never really got the idea of saving any money. And so never invested anything. He could use his hands, he could buy and sell and do this stuff. And so when I sold that place, I'm 25 years old. I sold for $170,000, more money than, I ever could possibly imagine, growing up. We never had anything like this. And I put all that money in a savings account, right, an investment account. And that money paid for my dad's retirement for the rest of his life.
Oh, that's a cool story.
That's the rest. So, when people talk about going into sales and earning money or going, own a business and earning money, it's because I can say that I did that and still feel that same emotion of pride of doing that for the rest of my life. It's not about the money. It's kind of what you do with it and what you can do with it.
Oh, man, I agree with that, man. I agree with that. I've learned the hard way. Kind of, in the sense that when I started out, we were poor. You know my story, poverty.
Yeah.
Went to college for money. Took the first job for money. Then moved up the corporate charts. One day I'm making a lot of money and realize I'm not happy. It ain't the money. At the end of the day, it isn't the money. It's what you're doing and what you're doing with the money that will make you happy. So now, that's pretty impressive though, man. 7 years, you had a business for 7 years, sold it at 25. For, I'll just say, almost $200,000 because I'm an optimist. I like to think that way, right? And what'd you do right after that?
We had a restaurant supply business in Manhattan. I was playing around doing that, but one day a friend asked me to come down to Atlanta, so I came down to Atlanta. It was like a Thursday. I'll never forget it. And he takes me to a party on a Thursday, and I'm like, oh my God. This place is great. I'm 27. I'm like, oh my gosh. Takes me to a party, meet some girl, blonde hair, Southern accent, bakes pies. I'm thinking this place is as good as it gets.
By the way, when it comes to lead qualification, that is right up there, right? Baked pie. I got it.
That's my target market right there. And so I went back home. And moved here 2 weeks later.
Wow.
Asked the girl to go out with me.
Mm-hmm.
She says, no, I got a boyfriend. I'm like, what? So there's my first objection.
Right.
I got a boyfriend.
Got competition.
And I said, I moved here. And so we talk. I asked her. I asked that girl out every day, not every day, every week for 26 weeks in a row. On the 27th week, I found out she broke up with her boyfriend. And we went to a Met game together at Fulton County, a Brave game, whatever. Mm-hmm. And, we've been married for the past 25, 26 years.
Congratulations.
2 kids, never had and so, but when I first started, she goes, what do you do with all this stuff? So I said, I got to earn some money. So I became a stockbroker. And that's what I did over here. And that's how I learned really how to sell over the phone, how to kind of introduce, how to create immediate rapport, that and the stick-to-itiveness of asking somebody out 26 times.
Yeah, man, I love that part. I love this. It's a great story, by the way. Look forward to meeting her one day. When you moved over into the stockbroker, because I also know you have, I think it's a course or a book on cold calling.
Yes.
So I imagined it came from being a stockbroker.
I am the world's best cold caller.
Look at
I
that.
don't want to brag. It's not bragging because it's just, and the reason is because I like it.
It ain't bragging if it's true. It ain't bragging if it's true. You heard it here. Dan Jordan, he is the best cold caller in the world, man. There you go.
Well, I mean, it's because I like it. I love the opportunity of being able to meet a new. I get excited waking up thinking, who am I going to meet today?
All right, wait a minute. I got to slow your roll here now because this is getting good. So you're telling me, because I want my insane people to hear this clearly, that you like cold calling. Like you don't.
Yeah. Listen. I realize it's not normal. Hey, listen, I like cold toilet seats too. But the point is, I like the whole idea of doing something new that's kind of, before we got on this interview, I threw out, here's my thing here.
Let's see.
Before we got on the interview, I threw out 13 just to get my voice right.
You threw out 13 what?
Calls.
Oh, you did 13 calls this morning already.
Yeah, just be in the 15 minutes before we got started. Oh, what the heck?
There you go. By the way, I should mention also, people don't know this, but I was on LinkedIn this morning, and you were up already posting a video this morning because you cut your chin shaving, right? I can still see. I can see it from here, right?
I know.
See, I do a little research, and so I thought. But anyway, I don't want to get away from cold calling. We'll come back to your chin later. So there's people out there, we know cold calling is still part of the outreach program, right? Mm-hmm. And, one could argue it's probably better to cold call now because everybody's inundated with emails and texts, whatever it may be. So help my folks get over those people who are struggling to do cold calling. Your top 3 tips, man. These are 3 things that if you do them, you're going to be able to overcome that hump and outreach. Give me 3 things and then give me mindset. Okay. In fact, flip that.
Well, the mindset is the main thing. The mindset is the main thing. And first, you have to have certain beliefs. And you have to have your belief in your product, that it really works, belief in your company, that they'll back it up, belief in yourself. But most importantly, you need to have the belief that whoever you're talking to, or whatever business you're reaching out to, that they are better off purchasing this product from you right now than from anybody else. You really totally have to believe that you are the best option. In my sales consulting practice, where we go, I know for a fact, any company I'm talking to, I know for a fact I can help them get more customers. I know it.
So let's qualify something, because I'm going to give you a little pushback here. I'm agreeing with you like 99.8% of the way. I don't like when people say that you offer the best option, because I think it's almost impossible to offer.
I didn't say offer the best option. I said believe in yourself that you are the best option.
Right.
And if you don't, you got the wrong product. Listen, if I got the cure for cancer, dude, I have the cure for cancer. And I'm calling somebody on the phone. I say, dude, I got the cure for cancer. You got cancer. This could help. And they say no. I'm going to come back with a rebuttal on that.
But here, let me push back. I got to push back again, because I think you're missing my point.
Feel free.
Because this is important, because I think this is like the mental glitch in people's head. I think it's and I want to highlight this, because when you think you're the best option, but the hobgoblin in the mind says, well, other people offer the same product. So am I really the best? Because we live in a world of product parity. All products are almost the same. All services are almost the same. So I don't like to say we offer the best option. I like to say that salespeople know how to position their option the best. That's my only twist, because there could be 3 people standing here with the same product, but the person that positions it the best, I think, will win. That's the only slight twist. What do you think?
We're almost there.
Yeah.
Let me
bring it.
Parry you slightly here. So
why we're here, Matt.
You mentioned Zig Ziglar earlier. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Zig Ziglar was famous for saying, and it's even more important right now, the most important part of the sale is the salesperson.
Correct.
So when I said earlier, the best option for them, it was, you have to believe, buying from you. It's you.
Yes.
When you have that belief, because listen, I know anybody could sell the same product, but they can't get the deej. Listen, if with the Deej is an extra 10%, just because I'm there with you.
By the way, if you're wondering what he's talking about, the Deej, that's his other name too. So he's got all kinds of names. He's got sales energizer, sales arbiter, and the Deej or DJ. Take your pick.
Well, you know what that is.
Wait. I don't want to get off topic. I don't want to get off topic here because but
I got to write it down because I got to bring. There's a good story with there too. I'm going to write it down.
So because I really want, I am now fully with you. I think we're lined up that you believe. Okay. That you are the best option. If we define you as the best option as you, the product, plus you, the salesperson, that combination is what makes you and I think that's where people, that's all I want.
So that's the belief system. Now, people have different ways of getting into the zone and, of that person. By the way, in the zone me is the Deej. We turn the Deej on. It's a different person. Dan Jordan, the Deej can do things that Dan Jordan could never think about doing. So you get yourself, I actually have a little mantra that I use to get into the zone. I say, I lead, not follow. I believe, not doubt. I create, not destroy. I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader. I'm a force for good, force for God, set the standard, defy the odds, stand up. I take charge. I win. And so now now I'm hopping on the phone. Now I'm a different person. So you got to control your mindset first.
All right. By the way, so
maybe that's first.
It's a good tip because I've heard people do reaffirmation. In your case, you're calling it a mantra, which I dig as well. No matter what you use, I think the point you're making is do something to put you in that state, as Tony Robbins would say, right?
Yeah, Tony Robbins.
Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz, in the state. And that's what you're doing, right? You just put yourself in that state.
Yes. And so then you're there. And now you have to have all your you have to have your rebuttals there. You have to have your script ready. You have to all of that. But if I can give people one piece of advice.
I'm not cutting you. You gloss over some good stuff. And I want people to really get you, man, because you're giving good stuff. You're giving gold here. You got to have your script down. What else did you say? You have to have your rebuttals down. Because would you agree that if it's not in you, like memorized, internalized, that's where people struggle.
Oh, and rehearse, practice, drill, rehearse every day. Practice, drill, rehearse, because it changes. So I'm calling to see if you might be interested in X. Well, yeah, tell me about it. I mean, even tell me about it is a rebuttal. Even how do you do that? I had a call just today. I talked to her and I said, your type of business, we're really good at helping other people get more customers, more profit and all that stuff. And she goes, how? And so I'm prepared. I looked on my thing for how. My half is, there's a whole mess of things, but the main thing is this. We make sure you and your salespeople get into more conversations just like this, where your prospects ask you, how can you do something for them?
Dude,
does that make sense?
By the way, if you're listening to this, notice how his tone, velocity, and the sincerity just comes across, man. That was well done. That was well executed, man. But
thank you.
I'm highlighting that because for you it's very natural because you got it down. But there's some people listening to this who think it's just saying the script. But what you just did in that little spit that you just did is that you can feel that you care for the other company. I'm just trying to help you. Dropped your voice. Right, whatever it may be, and it's a beautiful cadence. Mm-hmm. So mindset is first. Have the rebuttals and the rebuttals and the script.
The main thing, if you're looking for three things that they could just put to use today, if you something you can use today, it's for crying out loud. Stop saying "How are you?" When someone, how you doing today? Just don't say. As soon as you say, "How are you doing today?" on the phone, you finally get somebody say, "How you doing today?" And you think you're saying, "Hi, how are you doing?" You think you're being nice, but what they hear is cold call, and they literally put up their defenses, and you're building a brick wall between you just by saying those words. So don't say those words. Instead, use the 7 magic words. And the 7 magic words are, I wonder if you could help me.
Gotcha.
Hey, Victor, I wonder if you could help me. Who would be the person I would see? What happens is help it's such a special word. I learned this actually when I had my first business. I learned this. When somebody walks into the store, what are you trained to say? Hi, how may I help you? So when you reach somebody out, and even if you say it first, you're in essence letting them do their job. A receptionist answers the phone. Hello, this is Joni. How may I help you? Well, hey, Joni, thanks. I wonder if you could help me. My name's Dan. I'm with the company. and you're off to the races. If you say, how are you doing? You push people away.
Yeah.
If you ask them to help you, they literally lean into the phone.
It's a natural tendency to want to help. So, and I love that.
Yes.
So for you, now give me how, you said this morning you got up and did, was it 13 calls, something like that? 13 calls, I think, right? And so, like, what do you do when you're doing your cold calling? Like, what is your routine? Having all that set, I got the mindset, boom, with the mantra, I'm in, right? Yeah. Script down, rebuttals are down. Opening lines, right. That's all. We're all good. Like, what do you do? I mean, do you like time block? You say, 30 minutes I'll do this, 45 minutes I'll do this. I'll call in the afternoon. I call in the morning.
If I showed you my calendar, it's embarrassing.
Well, what are some of your
how time blocked?
Yeah, but what are some of your like constants? Like, Victor, this is every day, man. Every day.
I tell all the people that work with you have to do, even if a lot of businesses don't need to do outbound calling, or if they think, but they need, I encourage everybody to do it for at least an hour a day. Sometime in the day, they have to go out and do nothing else. And I have a pre-cold calling routine where I have a checklist. I'm learning how to fly. It's very exciting. And everything's about checklist. There's the pre-flight checklist, there's the reach your altitude checklist, there's the landing checklist. So I have a pre-cold calling checklist. And, one of the things is you shut off your programs on your computer. You shut off LinkedIn, you shut off Facebook, you shut everything off there. You get your list of names prepared for you. You have your script in front of you. You have your rebuttals in front of you. You have your, if you're using your cell phone, obviously keep it up there. But if you're not accepting calls. You're time blocking. You're doing nothing but that. I do in an hour. Generally, I have a program where I'll do it for 25 minutes, and then I'll do 5 minutes of push-ups. 5 minutes of just get up and rest, throw out some push-ups, and then do another 25 minutes and knock that out. But what happens, what I find with calling is, it's still with me. As someone who loves it, the first call is always the hardest. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But once you just get into that routine, just get started, you're good. You're really good to go. And it's the other thought process that you have when you're making your first calls is, it's not to get a customer. When I said I made these 13 calls, this was just in between, another appointment and something that while I was waiting for you. This wasn't to get a customer.
It was to what?
Though I think I did.
It was to what?
Get an almost pro.
If it's not to get a customer, what's it for?
Yeah, it was to sell it to me. It was to sell it to me. It was to get my voice right. It's to be in the game. The worst thing that could happen to you. I mean, talk about a warm-up.
Wait a minute.
The worst thing that can happen.
But you just called people, right? What did you call them for?
Yeah, I ultimately my pitch was to get them as a customer. But in my head, listen, what a cold call is not a. It's a billboard. This is what it is. So you're driving down the highway and you see a billboard for a Subway sandwich. And you're not hungry. What are you going to do? You're going to drive by. You're not hungry for the sandwich. That's what a cold call is. You're calling somebody and, dude, I'm not hungry.
So even if it's,
I don't want what you got right now.
But even if it's not a sale, I just want to be clear. It's not a sale, but it's to create one awareness or attempt a connection. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, but the point is, there's a win no matter what happens. If they don't answer, there's a win because it gives you an opportunity to give your pitch in a voicemail. Where you don't have to worry about anybody rejecting you. It's just a voicemail. And then two, if they do answer and they say no, you say, great, at least you got your pitch out, you sold it to yourself, and you have time to practice. And if they say yes, obviously you get a customer. But going in, your odds are not in your favor. You're not going to catch when people are hungry all the time. But you're getting better with every call. It's warming up. Nobody goes into a football game without stretching.
No, I got it. Now I understand you. I totally agree with you, by the way, that it is about trying to connect, create awareness, but it's getting it out, right? As you say, just, stretching out a little bit. We got to start somewhere. Let's go. But you said something. I just want to repeat it because a lot of people, again, we take things for granted because we've been in sales.
By the way, you're the best interviewer on the planet.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, you're getting stuff.
No, I got, wait.
You catch it all.
The thing is, you also, you brought in your I know you're taking, plane classes, right? You're learning how to fly. And so I never, this pre-call checklist, tying it back to the plane. I love that. See, I love that. That's a natural salesperson. You just take one analogy, you just tie an analogy together. Here's what I do when I pre-flight call you. Here's what you should do right before you take off on your phone. Love that, by the way. That's awesome. And so the whole thing about shut off social media, put the script in front of you, whatever it may be. And I think if you're listening to this and you're struggling with cold calling, I would say that piece of advice right there is gold, man. And also you said, again, you're skipping over things because you know it well, but I want to just put speed bumps because I want people to absorb what you're saying and understand how valuable it is. Is that you said you time block, throwaway statement, everybody does it, right? For an hour. But then you snuck in something. I'm listening to you, man. You inserted the Pomodoro method without thinking about it. And the Pomodoro method basically says you do 25 minutes and then you pause for 5 minutes and you do push-ups and then you go back at 25 again and then you do your 5 and that's your 1 hour. And there's some science behind that. And you just said it. And I wanted people to realize that what you're saying has some science behind it. So I don't know if you want to talk about time blocking a little more, but I wanted to highlight that was some real good stuff that you were giving out.
Yeah, I learned about time blocking years and years ago, and I guess I forgot. It's probably the Pomodoro method. I used to do 50 minutes and then 10-minute rest, 50 minutes, 10 rest. But this seems to work better for me. Yeah, I time block nearly everything. I'll time block time to think. Or time, obviously people do to exercise, but sometimes you just need to think. Sometimes you need to just shut it off and do. And what's great about making your calendar work for you like that is that you're always able to adjust it. You're always able to adjust it, and you find that you find that if you have to write down, I'm resting here or I'm watching TV during this time, you're so embarrassed by looking at how much time you're wasting, you do less of it. And I find by time blocking your time, you can gain an extra 4 hours a day.
I believe it. Can I ask you a question? Before you're into it, man. I want you to get.
Yeah.
Did you find? I've never asked anybody this question, but I think it'll be interesting to get your response. Did you find, because like me, a lot of people, you have ADHD, that that you had to time block because it was the only way to discipline yourself?
Yeah, and lists and checking off. The amount of joy I get of checking off a task, like after it's completed, because left to my own devices, I'll have 1,000 different tasks, nothing I'll get done.
But I want to get there's something subtle here. I sense it. My brain senses there's something here. Okay. When was the moment? Because I've had this where I'm just like losing time, Dan. Like you said, I need 4 hours a day, and I'm going, dang it, I really have to just start really, when was that moment where you said, I have to start doing this because I'm losing time? When did that sense of urgency kick in that you said, because everybody knows about time blocking, everybody knows about goal setting, but they don't do it. When did you realize? Okay.
All right. So here you go. Now you're getting the real meat of it. Okay. So I talked about my dad. All right. So my dad is the immigrant that came with ever. And he got sick. And so he moved to Atlanta, and my dad actually lived with us for 9 years of like declining health. And so at that time I had a lawn care company, several franchises or what have you. And I was growing that, and we had a warehouse, and I was working a lot. And my dad required many hours of taking him to doctors, back and forth, and all this stuff. And my kids were little when the whole thing was happening. And I realized that if I didn't manage my time, I would lose my business. I would probably lose my family. And I'm about to lose my dad with this whole thing. And I said, you know what? Let's just take a look at the hours of the day that are usable hours of the day. And I made I remember it was like a circular count, it was just a clock, and I would mark off on the clock, from 12 to this, I'm sleeping. I would actually mark in when I'm allowed to sleep. And I realized something. I realized that your day is 24 hours. It's the whole thing. It's 24 hours. Like you don't have to spend time, especially now with traveling and all that stuff is so little. You don't have to spend hours and hours a day getting to and fro places and not using that time for something. And so I had to manage it. I had to manage it, and it became an obsession.
It's interesting.
And so,
I love it.
And that's where I am. It's just, and it worked out well. Worked out well.
No, I love that story because it's, even if you had to have like a dramatic event in your life for you to finally realize, hey, I need to start managing my time. And I think, a lot of people, a lot of us, including me, at the end of the day, you're going, what did I do today? What did I do today? And so I'm always going through that. Hey, you mentioned franchise. Talk to me, man. I didn't know this.
Oh, I had, my wife always tells me, never again with the franchise. And so,
does she have a Jewish accent, by the way? Does she have a Jewish accent? Does she say like that?
No, she's not. I married actually, I don't know if it's a bad word. I married a nice little shiksa. I have 2 goyish babies. Anybody Jewish will know what I just said. Franchises are good. What franchises offer you is a system of how to run a business. And so the system is great because it reduces your failure rate because they're giving you that system, the system of sales, the system of business consulting, all the stuff that you do for people. The only challenge is after about a year or 2, you no longer need that system anymore because you're in it and you know it, but you're constantly paying for it with the royalties. And so it becomes a little fight with all that. And so I think franchises are great for people to get started with, but they're tough to sell because, people don't want to pay for that extra stuff that they may not need.
Would you recommend if you had to say this personality should be an entrepreneur, start their own business, this personality definitely should be in franchises, how would you divide that pie up? Like, how would you divide personalities up like that?
Listen, a franchise is a business, okay? And that's all it is. And everything is a business. The sales industry you're in business, everything's a business. And for me, the definition of a business is very simple. It's having a customer. Having a customer is a business. You can have all that other stuff in the background, but if you don't have a customer, you got nothing. And you can have a customer and have none of that stuff in the background, but you still have a business. So the mindset of anybody in a franchise or any kind of business has to be, how do I get a new customer?
But wait a minute. Let me push you because
customer?
that's the easy answer. That's the layup, right? You've done both. You started your own business, right? Had the deli for 7 years, right? And then you did the franchise. And there's 2 different personalities. I'll put some breadcrumbs out there. You tell me if I'm going. If you're just like not the person who knows how to develop business, you don't know a lot about business, you're scared, you don't understand systems, then maybe franchise would be a good kickoff point if you want to jump into something with a little safety net and security. If you're that's if you're risk averse. If you're not risk averse and you really love the freedom of creating, I think that's what I was alluding to. I mean, do you see that? Am I wrong or, add some flavor to that.
I'm trying not to be all down on franchises.
I'm not down on franchises because I think it works for some people. It really does work. Not for some people, for a lot of people. Starbucks. There you go.
I'm not a big fan on limiting my income and ability to grow. And franchises, by their very nature and their territories and all that stuff, have that inherent issue about them. So yes, there's some safety, but there's always a trade-off. Security for growth opportunities. So absolutely. Someone first getting started should talk to you first, or me first, or someone before they do it to find out, because everybody's different, and you can get caught up with some big expenses. A lot of service franchises, I think, are really, good avenues for people. But when people go into retail franchises where they have to, get a lease for 5 or 6 years or 10 years or whatever it is, they don't realize that's their biggest expense. They're on the hook for that $3,500 every month, whether or not they're making a penny. And so, get your feet wet in a good service franchise business first before you're going to outlay that type of money.
So you do, one of the things I want to highlight that Dan does, you got perfect segue, by the way. I don't know if you just self-segued yourself.
That's what I'm here for.
Is that you work with small businesses, small business owners, and I'm sure some entrepreneurs here and there. And I think, going to a guy like you would be very valuable because it says you come to a person like me. Right? Because I've seen both sides, and what you're stating is absolutely right. They're trade-offs. And it would be interesting to talk to the person through those trade-offs. Do you find that when you consult with businesses or people?
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of the most successful small businesses almost kind of fell into it. I'm dealing with the one guy who was, he was working for a company, and then the owner died. The son took it over. He didn't really know what he was doing, and so they lost a lot of clients. And so a couple of the employees, he being one of them, said, "Why don't we go out on our own?" And they talked to the clients. They said, "We'll give you the business. You just go out on your own." Done. And then they have a few clients there, and they grow, but then they reach a point where they're not growing. And in business, I think Tony Robbins says, you're not growing, you're shrinking. You're not climbing, you're sliding. There's no in between. And if people can get past that hump, that little, that first plateau, and just, suck it up, hire someone like you or me, and push it to the next level. If they can just get over that hump, then the sky's the limit. Or it'll kill them and they'll have to sell.
So when you work with, and I love the example you gave about, because a lot of people do fall into success, like literally like trip into it. Mm-hmm. And so let's go back to this example of, the parents died, they owned the business, then they decided to go on their own. And now, they took some clients with them, right? Took a little portfolio with them, but now they got to grow the business. When you're dealing with those type of businesses, not all, just that fell into businesses, they really haven't had to build the systems. How do you help them, Dan? Like, what are some of the things you do if a small business owner is listening now and they're struggling because they're not getting new clients? Give me your mini blueprint, and then they'll check out the Dan Jordan, spelled Jour Dan, on your website. But walk me through a little mini blueprint of how you would help me if I was in that situation, struggling to get sales.
Sure. Well, the first thing that just everybody needs to understand is there's three parts of a company. There's the production, there's the sales and marketing, and there's the administration. Those three sections. Pick one that you like, pick one that you're good at, but don't do the other ones. And generally, the owner of a small business is generally the highest producer. And that person can't leave. That the owner of the company is the one who's bringing in all the business. People are doing business with the company because of the owner of the company. If that's the situation, you've limited yourself again. It's like being in a franchise. You can't even sell it, because if you leave, so does all the business. And so what we do with companies is make them aware of that, and then with their help and over a period of time, 6 months or so, we can build self-functioning, highly profitable sales divisions to their business, sales teams to their business, or maybe just one person to their business, where the owner no longer needs to be the top producer.
So how do you do that? Because I think that's tough. You're getting on a great topic, because there's a lot of owners who don't realize that, Michael Gerber said, I think it was the book, The E-Myth, right? Never work in your business, work on your business, which means you're not actually running it. And so, but you're highlighting something that's a big problem out there, right? The main salesperson is the owner, and the owner doesn't know how to transition out of that. What have you done to help the owner, like, basically transition out of that? How do you help them do that?
Right. And then the challenge is they say, "Oh, I need a salesperson." So they hire a salesperson, kick him in the rear end. He goes out and fails, and then I'm never going to do that again. Or they get a really great salesperson, and the salesperson knocks it out and all that stuff, and then they're dependent on that person. If that person leaves, then they're messed up. So what you have to do, small business people do, and it's really not a difficult process, but it is, you must commit yourself, block time for yourself to build and own the sales process. And once they own that process and that system, which comes with, they have built-in sales training, they have, regular meetings set, they have a tactical plan on a sales process, on follow-up, they have good CRM. Once you have those systems in place and you own the system, then you hire a salesperson, not necessarily even experienced, but someone with the will, because you could take someone with will, plug them into the system, and teach them the skill.
So pause. So hit the pause button right there, because again, you're highlighting something important, but I think you're going over it too quickly because you're good at it. And that is that piece in between. You got the guy or gal who either hired somebody, then fired them, like, you're not doing it my way, screw you. Or they hired somebody, they got real good, they became dependent on them. You're saying step back from that And then you say, figure out your system. In other words, you, the owner, you said the sales training, be the hiring process, because this is where you help them.
And then the follow-through process, and have the tools available,
but
the CRM services, the email follow-up.
Well, this is the reason I want to highlight this, because this is what you do well, is that you take, the thing is, then you said after you have all that in place, then you hire somebody, right? And you make it sound like it's a cakewalk. It's not, which is why people like you and me are in business, because the owner doesn't know how to put the system together. Sometimes they know it, but they can't explain it to themselves. And it's almost like you got to pull it out of them, help them organize that. Talk to me about, some customer like that, maybe in the past, that you had to really like, dude, stop. Let me show you what we got to do first before you bring anybody on. Do you have any of those stories?
Yeah, well, of course, and I'll share one, but here's the reason why. They're smart. These owners are smart. They're animated. They're good. They're the best salesperson because they are the best salesperson. And, and they love it, and they have the passion, and, they're into, and it's difficult for them to give that. Man, I want to do that.
It's hard for them to get out their own way, right? It
yeah.
Really is.
I mean, they want to do that.
By the way, if you're an owner and you're listening to this, I really want you to listen to what Dan is saying. Get out of your own way. Step number one. Go ahead, Dan.
But what they have to want more than that is a real business and a real life. They have to have an incident that just happens, or the potential, or a family member, distantly, something that they could see. Oh my gosh, if I had to take off for 3 months like they did, what would happen to my business?
I love it.
Because we like the control. The reason why we're not in a franchise is for the same reason. We don't limit it. We want the control. They want the control. They're good people. So once that kind of event happens, which happened in this one case that I'm talking about, that was very difficult to give up. Everybody thinks that their business is so unique, and the processes. But this was a bidding system that they were doing a lot of government work, and he had relationships with people and all that stuff that he felt that nobody else could take over. And so what we did is said, okay, I'll tell you what, you keep those accounts and you keep doing all that, and we're going to build something on the side over here without you. The only thing is you're not allowed to butt into ours. We won't butt into yours, but you're not allowed to butt into ours. And then within 3 months, it started all mashing together, and he realized maybe I could take off. And so we did a test. And he took off for 2 weeks, and the rule was he wasn't allowed to call in once.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Yeah.
And he came back and smooth sailing, picked up by the way, they put on $1 million client this year.
Congratulations.
$1 million. Yeah, it was very exciting.
You said something interesting. You said that they really want, I guess you got to remind owners of this, that you want a real business and a real life. That's what you said.
Real life.
That's what you said. But it's a heavy statement, because what the owner wants is, I want a real business. What's a real business? Something that runs, and I know is more predictable than unpredictable, more stable than chaotic. That's the real business, right? And then the real life is what you just said, the ability to walk away from it and it still runs, and you're working on your business. I love that phrase, man. Real business and a real life. That's heavy.
Well, if I think it was Michael Gerber again, I think we read the same books, who said, if your business isn't giving you more life, it's taking it away. And, again, there's no in between. And so you just work on that. I have a great friend, the one who got me into flying, and, his life started when he, hired a consultant to go ahead and fix his business. And it's a great, very successful business, enough so that he, has bought a new plane, and he's, flying around, ostensibly seeing clients. Crying out loud, he's just flying for
enjoying it. For fun. Hey, by the way, as we close this out, I want to bring it full circle. I don't forget these things. Ooh. So this morning, you're up on some building doing a video. You're bleeding from your chin profusely. I'm just building it up so people go find your video. And you say the following. And I want to close out with this, because I thought this was an interesting statement. You said, imperfection attracts people to you. And I thought that was such an interesting line. So imperfection attracts people to you. Now, tell them about the video and then explain that statement just a little more from your perspective.
You're asking me to remember something from this morning. I got up at 04:30. I don't know what I'm talking about. I just get going. I just shaved and I cut myself. But that statement, imperfection, that came from this girl that I knew in high school, and I actually must have been college years because we was in a bar and stuff. And she goes, she was beautiful. Nobody ever walks up to me. Nobody talks to me. The guys were scared to talk to her. And I said, this is what you need to do. Go to the bathroom and go get some toilet paper and stick it to the bottom of your shoe and give these guys a chance to come over there and help you. Give them, be a little awkward and embarrassed and all that stuff. And that's what we did. And that's when I realized that's what happens. Everybody tries to be so perfect. And you talked about cold calling and everything. There's no one right word or that you could say or something that you can't say. It's being authentic. It's being real. It's really think that you can help somebody and just be honest. That's the secret of sales that people don't remember.
Yeah.
Unwaveringly honest. Is this a cold call? Yes. It's as cold as it gets. I don't know anything about you. You're on a list, but I really think we can help you. Honest.
What I love about that statement, as you were telling the story, because I think you woke up, you were shaving too fast, you cut yourself, you're bleeding profusely, but you're like a glass half full guy. And so you say, hey, I get to talk about my chin today, and Victor gets to talk about it on his podcast as well. But I thought that whole thing about imperfection attracts people to you. It's interesting because when you seem too perfect, it's like people think, okay, they have it all done, they have it right. And they're almost, it's like, it's the handsome guy, beautiful woman syndrome, right? It's like, it's a little intimidating. And by being a little vulnerable and letting the blemishes show, so to speak, that people are less afraid to approach you. And I think it's an irony, right?
You're right. And in sales, use what you have. If you're young and you're just getting started, be that young, first week salesperson. Listen, I'm sorry. This is like my first week and I'm just trying to figure this stuff out. I apologize if I'm calling you, whatever. Let them take you under their wing. Let them help you. And then when you get a little older, offer some advice. Give to young people. Get inside. Use what you have.
Yeah, it's okay.
And be honest about it.
I love that. It's okay to be imperfect, man. On that note, Mr. Dan Jordan, let these folks know.
Hey, I got a book. Okay. You got to talk about the book, Sales Proverbs.
Okay, well, why don't you talk about it? Go ahead.
Okay, well, there it is. Listen, it's not about how to sell better. You can get that from Sales Velocity, which I tell a lot of people to get.
Thank you.
This is how to live a great salesperson's life.
Give me one of the proverbs, one of your favorite ones in there. Let's close this out right. You brought up the book, so let's close it out with a good one.
I tell you, if you want to be a better salesperson, first be a better person.
Wow. I think
work on number one.
Oh man, let's end it with that. That's a good one. That's a good one to end with. Dan Jordan, let them know where they can find out more information about you.
Sure. Well, of course, you can go to Amazon for the book, but if you just pull up my name, Dan Jordan, on Google, you'll be sure to find a bunch of stuff, and we'll get you all hooked up.
He's all over the internet.